I am Kate Scott. I'm an Independent Research Fellow in the School of Earth and Environment. I very much am focused on UK climate mitigation policy. The UK set a target to 2050 to reduce its emissions by 80%. The government has anticipated that we're going to fall short of meeting our climate change targets. And so I look at what are the additional policies that we can implement in order to meet this mitigation gap. What we try to do is work with policymakers and industry partners from the offset of our projects. And we've gone and spoken to different government departments, different industries such as Tata Steel in the UK, we work with them, and the Committee on Climate Change. So by engaging policymakers and these industry groups from the offset of our research, we're able to try and build consensus around the sort of evidence that we're producing and how we can bridge the mitigation gap. So I conduct my research at the Priestley Centre, and I think it's a very good place to work where you're conducting interdisciplinary, solution-focused research. And I'm working with people at the Met Office that are partly based at Priestley Centre. I'm working with climate scientists. I'm working with experts in stakeholder engagement in energy transitions. There's a whole breadth of research going on.
My name is James Ford. I'm a professor and Priestley Chair in Climate Change Adaptation here at the University of Leeds. I work in the Arctic. I specifically work with Inuit communities, and I try to understand, firstly, how the climate's changing, and then looking at the kinds of impacts that climate change is having on people's livelihoods and their everyday activities. My work is very interdisciplinary. It involves working with communities to understand how the climate's changing and how those changes are affecting people, but it also requires collaboration not only with communities but also with researchers working in the natural sciences, the social sciences, and also in the humanities. And the Priestley Centre was really a great opportunity to really bring together researchers from across campus. I work in the Arctic. A lot of my colleagues work in parts of Africa, parts of Asia, parts of Latin America. And while that's quite different than the regions in which I work, the approaches that we use are very, very similar across different contexts. So that ability to talk with different people about their experience in different geographical regions, their experience about the approaches they use, I think is very, very useful.
My name is Dr. Maria Baker. I'm a University Academic Fellow in Marine Conservation Science at the School of Biology. My research is all about finding solutions to better protect and manage coral reef ecosystems. I think most people nowadays have worked out that coral reefs are in a crisis. The crisis comes from the thermal stress, the heating, that the corals don't respond well to. These really strong bleaching events that we've been seeing in the past few years, they cause this widespread mortality where you have up to 80% of the corals die on the reef. Swimming across a bleached reef, at first sight, it's quite beautiful. A bleached reef is just entirely white. It's like imagining that a forest would be entirely white and you walk through it. Visiting the reef 6 weeks later, after bleaching has happened, is definitely not a good experience. Conservation science is really about how can we take limited resources for conservation or management and apply them strategically and cleverly in a way to enhance the benefits or maximize the benefits. My aims sort of interface between developing the science, the solutions that sort of underpin decision making, but I also work with managers and policymakers to try and help them using science in their decisions. Because I work in a really interdisciplinary area where you need ecologists, social scientists, decision scientists, math people, it is actually perfect.
My name's Andy Juan Challoner and I'm a Professor of Climate Impacts here at the University of Leeds. So climate change is already impacting on agriculture. We're seeing an increase in extreme events that are having direct effects on production in particular years. And we also know that the more gradual changes are also beginning to have an effect. And we know that we need to adapt our food production systems in order to cope with these changing climates and especially the changes that are to come. New varieties of crop take a while to be approved, they have to be tested in the field, they have to get out into farmers' hands. So that can take quite a long time, a few years, but actually up to kind of 20 years. We're working with plant breeders, working with crop breeders, actually working with policy as well, saying to policymakers, look, you need to speed up the process through which new varieties are approved. Carrying out this research at the Priestley Centre is extremely exciting because we've got a really exciting multidisciplinary and cross-disciplinary a bunch of people. We have really exciting sort of conversations that are kind of outside the box, some of which lead to specific things, some of which are just kind of fun. having really in mind this idea of partnerships elsewhere that we really need in order to deliver the work and really make something happen. That's the really exciting thing.
I have access to collaborations with climate scientists and mathematicians and social scientists.
By working with people that understand very different aspects of the system, we can really start to understand how we might think about solving this big problem.
And just that ability to kind of get together, to talk about our projects, to cross-fertilise ideas, I think is a very rich experience that you can only really get in a centre like Priestley.